Tomorrow, we cross into Russia. The men whisper it at night, as if saying the word aloud might summon the devil himself. Barbarossa, they call it, a grand name for a grand campaign. The officers say it will be quick, a few months at most. The Soviets, they tell us, are poorly armed, disorganized, easy prey for the modern German army. I clean my rifle by lamplight, its barrel gleaming like new bone. Around me, the camp murmurs, boots scraping, whispers, laughter that sounds forced. I am 19 and feel old already. When I close my eyes, I see the map spread out in the command tent, arrows stabbing deep into the east, toward cities I can barely pronounce: Minsk, Smolensk, Moscow. Endless names on endless plains. It feels like we are marching into forever. The dawn broke red, and we rolled forward in clouds of dust and diesel. Planes howled overhead, Stukas diving on targets we couldn't see, the earth trembling with their fury. I thought it beautiful for a moment, like a sunrise painted with fire. We crossed the border before breakfast. The first village we entered was silent. Smoke hung over the fields where barns had burned. A woman stood beside a well, holding a child. She didn't run or speak, just watched us pass, her eyes wide and hollow. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words died behind my teeth. We are liberators, the officers said, but it doesn't feel like liberation. 10 days of dust and heat. The tanks lead, we follow, stumbling through churned roads. The land is vast and empty, a green ocean that never ends. Each night, we dig shallow trenches and collapse into them like corpses. Sleep comes hard. Mosquitoes bite through the canvas. The Russians fight harder than we were told. Yesterday, our company met real resistance, a line of trenches hidden in the trees. It was my first true battle. I remember the noise most of all, the clatter of machine guns, the screams, the smell of blood and cordite. When it was over, I saw a Soviet boy, he couldn't have been older than me, lying on his back, his hands still clutching a rifle. His eyes were open to the sky, filled with clouds. I thought he might blink. We buried our dead beside theirs. For a moment, I forgot who was who. The officers call it a victory, but it feels like drowning. We take towns by day, lose men by night. The heat has become unbearable. Flies coat our faces. The horses die where they stand, bloated in the sun. We drink from streams thick with mud. Rumors spread that the Russians burn everything before we arrive, that whole units vanish into the forests. Partisans, they whisper, a word that makes even veterans flinch. Sometimes we hear shots in the dark and see nothing. Hans, my bunkmate, has begun talking in his sleep. He mutters names, his mother's, his fiancée's. I envy him for remembering how to dream. Rain at last, heavy, merciless rain. It turns the roads into rivers and the trenches into graves. We are soaked to the bone, our boots filled with slime. The men curse, cough, smoke. No one sings anymore. I wrote a letter home last night, but I couldn't bring myself to tell the truth. I said the campaign goes well. I said we are proud. But what pride is there in watching a comrade bleed out in your arms while you press a trembling hand to his throat? The rain keeps falling. It feels as if the sky itself is weeping for us. We have been marching in circles. The Russians retreat, then strike from nowhere. Our officers shout about discipline and victory, but their eyes betray fear. We've lost half the company in 3 weeks. The wounded lie in wagons, their moans constant and low. like an animal's cry. Once, we would have stopped to bury them. Now, we move on. I've stopped counting the days. We found a farmhouse, half burned, and took shelter there. Inside, the walls were covered in children's drawings, horses, sunflowers, crude tanks. The family was gone. Only a cat remained, thin and wild-eyed. It hissed when I tried to feed it, then disappeared into the ashes. The sergeant says Moscow is near, that we will be home by Christmas. He says it with the certainty of a prayer. But the nights grow colder, the men cough blood, the trees creak in the wind like voices. Sometimes I think I hear my own name whispered among them. It came without warning, first as flurries, then a white curtain that swallowed the world. We were still in summer uniforms. Within hours, our fingers were numb, our breath turning to ice. The engines froze. Horses collapsed in the snow, their flanks steaming. We were ordered to keep advancing, through blizzards, through hunger, through something worse than fear, emptiness. The Russians fight like ghosts now. You rarely see them until they're upon you, wrapped in white, silent as death. The snow hides everything. Blood looks black against it. We reached the outskirts, but could go no farther. The cold is beyond imagination. It bites through wool, through skin, through hope itself. My hands are cracked, bleeding. My rifle jams more often than it fires. The men are half mad from frost and exhaustion. The officers still talk of victory, but their lips tremble when they say the word. Last night, Hans froze to death in his sleep. He looked peaceful, almost smiling. I didn't wake him. I wrapped him in his blanket and laid him under a birch tree, then sat beside him until dawn. The snow fell softly over his face until he disappeared. We celebrated what we could. Someone found a bottle of schnapps, and we passed it around, each taking a small, reverent sip. A few men sang carols under their breath. I tried to join, but forgot the words halfway through. No letters reach us anymore. The radio brings only static. We are no longer advancing. We are only surviving. I wrote this by the light of a burning crate. The flame flickers and dies like everything else. If we ever return, I wonder who will recognize us. If I survive, I will never again believe in easy wars or quick victories or the clean logic of maps. The snow falls still, white, endless, silent. The snow is old now, gray with soot and blood. We live inside it, dig, sleep, cough in it. Frost has taken 3 toes from my left foot. The medic says I am lucky. Others lose hands, noses, ears. Some lose their minds. We no longer speak of Moscow, only of warmth, only of bread. Once, I dreamed of parades in Berlin. Now I dream of a stove and a loaf that never ends. At night, I stare at the stars and wonder if the Russians see the same sky. Do they pray? Do they curse? Maybe they simply keep walking, as we do, because stopping means dying. The thaw has begun. Rivers break their ice like bones. The smell returns rot, fuel, damp uniforms, flies again. We pull back, foot by foot, burning what we cannot carry. The propaganda officer visited yesterday. He told us the Führer has everything under control, that reinforcements are coming. We clapped like actors. When he left, Muller spat into the mud. Hans's replacement, a boy from Hamburg, asked me what it's like out there. I told him, cold. I didn't tell him anything else. The countryside blooms, but I can't bear the color green anymore. Every meadow hides the dead. We pass columns of Soviet prisoners, starved men walking barefoot on the road. Some collapse. Trucks roll past them without slowing. The lieutenant says it's the natural order, superior versus inferior. Yet when I look at those faces, hollow and burned by sun, I think we look the same. The heat is worse than the winter. The air smells of dust and gasoline. We move east, again new offensive, new promises. The Russians fall back, but never break. They are like water, you strike them, and they flow around you. At night, the horizon glows red. Smoke covers the city. The Volga gleams behind it, a blade of silver under the sun. Planes dive all day. The ground trembles. We were told the city will fall within a week. The first streets are rubble. Every house, every basement hides someone with a rifle. You shoot at windows, at shadows, at anything that moves. The noise never stops. A comrade joked, "At least it's warmer than Moscow." No one laughed. I can't describe the smell: brick, dust, oil, blood, corpses left in stairwells. The city eats men whole. We fight for rooms, for staircases, for walls already destroyed. Our rations arrive late, sometimes not at all. Water comes from shell craters. The Russians are everywhere, under us, above us, behind us. You hear footsteps in pipes, voices through the walls. I sleep in half-hour snatches. My hands shake so badly, I can't light a cigarette. The sergeant says the Volga is only a kilometer away. It might as well be the moon. We've stopped counting days. The city has become a single, endless day. The commander reads orders, saying the Soviets are finished. Yet each night they attack, screaming "Ura!" and throwing grenades into our holes. I've begun to admire their madness. It is purer than ours. Yesterday, a shell hit our shelter. It killed Franz instantly. I pulled his body aside so we could keep firing. Later, I found his pocket diary, 3 pages, full of neat handwriting, ending with the words, "I miss the river at home." I tore out that page and kept it. The sky thundered for hours, then everything collapsed. The Russians broke through the flanks. We are trapped, an entire army ringed by snow and guns. They call it the Kessel, the cauldron, a fitting name. Inside it, men melt. We burn furniture, ammunition, crates, even books to stay warm. The horses are gone. We boil their bones. Someone found a frozen dog, and we shared it like a feast. The radio crackles with promises of relief. No one believes them. We built a tiny tree from splinters of a crate, tied cartridge ribbons to it, sang "Still No Hot" under our breath. Half the men we sang with last Christmas are dead. The snow drifts through the roof. It falls on our food, our blankets, our wounds. The Soviets broadcast loudspeakers at night. "Surrender, Germans, you will live." The lieutenant ordered us to ignore it, but I saw 2 men crawl toward the lines last night, hands raised. They didn't come back. When I close my eyes, I see my mother baking bread. I smell yeast and safety. Then the memory fades, and all that remains is cold iron and smoke. No more supplies, no more hope. Men wander the streets, wrapped in rags, eyes blank. The wounded beg to be shot. I saved my last bullet for myself, but haven't decided when to use it. This morning, the order came, surrender. Some cried, some laughed. I felt nothing. I laid down my rifle and walked toward the ruins, hands raised. Snow fell like ash. A Russian soldier approached Chung, face red with wind. He looked at me for a long moment, then motioned for me to move. He didn't hate me. That hurt most of all. We are skeletons now, draped in gray cloth. The guards treat us harshly, but not cruelly. Perhaps they've seen too much death to waste more hate. March 5, 1943. POW camp, east of the Don. It has been more than a month since the surrender. There are still thousands of us, hollow-eyed, coughing, clinging to life with frost-bitten hands. Each morning, the guards take the dead away on sledges. We do not look. The living stare only at the snow. I used to count the days. I stopped when I realized that time no longer moved here, only hunger did. They give us thin soup and black bread. I eat slowly, reverently, as though it were communion. Sometimes I think of God again, but only when I'm hungry enough to pray. April 22nd, 1943. The long road, they've begun marching some of us west. We are told we LLB exchanged for Soviet prisoners. I don't believe it until I see the Red Cross trucks. Half of us can barely stand, but they herd us along anyway. Rifles behind us, snow melting beneath our feet. The landscape has changed. It's spring again. Birds sing over fields still littered with rusted helmets and bones. I find one with a hole through it, clean, perfect. I can see the sun through the wound. I carry it for a day, then leave it on a fence post. I don't need reminders anymore. June 1st, 1943. Germany, I am home, though home feels like a stranger's house now. They brought us back as heroes, but people look away in the street. The newspapers speak of Stalingrad as if it were a noble tragedy, not a graveyard. Mutter hugs me, but doesn't ask questions. Vader stands in silence, pipe unlit. I think he understands too much. They say the Führer has new weapons, that the tide will turn. But I see the fear in the officers' eyes when they come recruiting again. The war machine eats faster now, and it needs new flesh. I am not sure I have any left to give. September 15th, 1943. Re-enlisted. They called it reassignment. I call it what it is, return to the slaughter. They say we must redeem the honor lost at I wear a new uniform, but my body still carries the lice and ghosts of the old one. We're bound for Ukraine this time. The fields are golden, beautiful, too beautiful. I look at the peasants and wonder what they think of us. Do they see soldiers or just another plague rolling through? October 8th, 1943, near Kiev. We move at night now. The partisans are everywhere, like shadows that bleed. They strike supply lines, vanish into forests. The lieutenant says they're bandits. I think they're the only ones still sane. Once, we found a partisan camp abandoned, just ashes and a torn photograph of a family. A child's toy lay half-burned in the dirt. One of our men, Becker, picked it up and started crying without sound. No one mocked him. We all felt it. December 31st, 1943, New Year's Eve. We huddled in a barn outside Jitomir. Someone produced a bottle of schnapps, and we passed it around, silently. Outside, artillery thumped in the distance, steady as a heartbeat. The snow was falling again, always the snow. I thought of the winter of 41, of Hans, of Franz, of the white faces under trees. 3 years ago, we were boys chasing glory. Now we are ghosts chasing warmth. When the bottle came to me, I toasted not to victory, but to survival, and even that felt like a lie. March 10th, 1944, the retreat, the Red Army, has grown monstrous. Tanks roll like thunder. Airplanes darken the sky. We run more than we fight now, retreating west, burning bridges, burying the wounded alive when we cannot carry them, ammunition low. food gone, command in chaos. Rumors say the Führer is mad, moving imaginary divisions on maps. We laugh bitterly. Even laughter sounds like coughing now. I saw a Russian soldier today, barely 16, captured and terrified. He was shaking so hard his rifle rattled. Our officer wanted to shoot him, but I stopped it, said we needed information. The boy thanked me in broken German. Later, when the officer wasn't looking, I let him go. For a moment, I felt human again. May 1st, 1944, Poland, the forests are alive again with spring. The earth smells of new grass and old blood. We pass villages already burned to ash. No one left, not even dogs. Somewhere in me, something has gone quiet. I follow orders. I clean my weapon. I walk, but the world feels far away, as if I am already fading from it. The young soldiers call me OPA grandfather, though I am only 22. They still believe the radio, the speeches. I envy them. Ignorance is a kind of mercy. August 5th, 1944. Warsaw, we're told, the city has rebelled. Civilians, students, women, all fighting us. The streets are fire and screams. We are ordered to crush it without mercy. I see a girl no older than my sister, holding a pistol in shaking hands. She fires once, misses the man beside me, shoots her through the chest. She falls like a bird with a broken wing. Afterward, I sit in a doorway and stare at my hands. They are filthy, cracked, trembling, but they do not bleed. I wish they would. December 24th, 1944, somewhere in Hungary. Another Christmas in the ruins. We share a tin of meat and a few scraps of bread. Someone hums a hymn, soft and broken. An old priest traveling with the civilians stopped by. He gave us a blessing, though I doubt God listens anymore. He said, "War strips away everything that isn't truth." I think he's right. And the truth is simple. We are all just trying not to die. January 10th, 1945, near the Oder River. The roads west are a river of mud and broken men. We march without destination, hunted by the sound of Russian artillery that never seems to rest. The columns are full of boys in oversized coats and old men pulled from their shops. I am 23 now, and somehow the oldest among them. They call it the final defense. I no longer believe in defenses. We are not fighting for land anymore, or orders, or even survival. We fight because it's all we've known. To stop is to realize what we've done. The night sky glows faintly red to the east, the same color it did before Moscow, before Stalingrad. Always the same fire, only closer now. February 19th, 1945. Inside Germany, we are back where it all began. The villages are German, the signs in our own language, yet they look at us as though we are invaders. A farmer's wife gave us milk today. When we left, I saw her crying. The propaganda posters still hang on the walls. A smiling soldier, clean and brave. I look at them and wonder who he is supposed to be. Not me, not any of us. They say the Führer will unleash new wonder weapons, but the only wonder left is that we are still alive. March 30th, 1945. Crossing the Spree, I found Muller again. He survived captivity, barely. We hardly recognized each other at first, both thinner, older, eyes hollow. We shared a cigarette and talked about home. He said his wife died in an air raid last year. He didn't cry. He just stared at the ground. He said he envied her. That night, we slept in a barn. The roof had holes, and through them we saw the stars. Muller whispered. Maybe the stars looked the same over Stalingrad. I told him they must. We didn't speak again after that. He was killed the next morning by a Soviet shell. There was nothing left to bury. April 16th, 1945. Outskirts of Berlin, the city burns ahead of us. Civilians flee past, women pulling carts, children carrying pots, soldiers without rifles. The sky is filled with ash and the constant roar of artillery. We are told to hold the line along the Oder. Hold what line? There is no line, only ruins and screams. I saw a boy, perhaps 12, wearing a Hitler Youth armband, clutching a Panzerfaust. He looked at me for instruction. I told him to go home. He said, "There is no home." And he was right. April 24th, 1945. Inside Berlin, we are fighting street to street again, just like Stalingrad. The circle closes, the same nightmare repeating itself in reverse. Every doorway, every sewer, every subway tunnel filled with soldiers, civilians, wounded, and the smell of despair. The Reich Chancellery is a fortress of madness. Officers bark orders no one follows. Maps are useless. Buildings vanish overnight under the bombs. At night, I write these words in the flicker of candles melted into shell casings. Outside, the city moans, a single, endless cry. April 30th, 1945. Rumors, they say the Führer is dead. A pistol, a bunker, silence. No one knows for sure, but something changes in the air. A hollow quiet, as if the city itself has exhaled for the first time in years. The fighting doesn't stop, not yet, but the will that drove us is gone. Men throw away their rifles and weep openly. I sit against a wall, bleeding from a cut on my arm, and feel nothing. All I can think is, it is over. It has to be over. May 2nd, 1945. The surrender. White sheets hang from the windows. The shooting fades, replaced by the rumble of tanks and the shouted orders of the Russians. We stand in a courtyard, unarmed, as they approach. Their faces are hard, tired, not triumphant, just finished. One soldier looks at me and nods once, as though to say, "Enough." I nod back. Then they march us away. The streets of Berlin are covered in dust and petals, trees blooming over rubble, life growing out of death. I think maybe that's how the world forgives itself. June 12th, 1945. Camp outside Berlin. We live in Wire now, prisoners again. It's almost peaceful, in a strange way. There are no orders, no speeches, no maps, just waiting. Sometimes I see Russian soldiers laughing, playing cards, smoking together. Their laughter sounds human, and for a moment I remember that we once were too. At night, I dream of the river near home. Not the Volga, not the Spree, the small stream behind my parents' farm. Clear, quiet, filled with frogs and reeds. I wake up crying, though I don't know why. August 1st, 1945. The end. They tell us the war is officially over. I write that down but can't make sense of it. How does one end something that became the air itself? The camp is silent tonight. The sky above is full of stars, the same ones Muller spoke of. I think of Hans, Franz, the Russian boy I let go, the girl in Warsaw, my mother. Faces drift through me like snow. I realize I no longer feel anger or pride or even shame, only a deep, exhausted knowing. If anyone ever reads this, let them understand. I was not a hero. I was not even a believer by the end. I was only a man caught between orders and conscience, between the east wind and the long shadow of home. And somewhere out there, under a field of nameless bones, the war still hums, low and endless, like a heartbeat that refuses to stop.